All right, let's get into it. Today, we're diving into a dark, pretty intense philosophical fable. It's a story about a war for the very soul of humanity. And get this, it's fought between two magnificent but also terrifying clockwork birds. So, our story kicks off with, believe it or not, a full-blown crisis in hell. Yeah, down in the ash heaps of the abyss, something called a Naples miracle has just happened. A little clockwork machine has managed to escape, and it's stolen a spark of, well, divine hope. The story calls it a holy yes. And this one tiny act of rebellion, it has sent an absolute shockwave of fear through the entire Infernal Council. Okay, so this first part is all about that initial spark, a spark in the void. We're going to look at how this one little machine becomes this massive existential threat to what the story calls Satan's long tiredness, this endless, static nothingness. So this first owl, they call it an overman of brass, is a huge problem for the established order of despair. It's out there singing this new song, a song about striving and self-overcoming. It's this tiny, vibrant spark of yes in a universe that hell is desperate to keep painted in nothing but shades of no. And right here, this is the core conflict laid bare. It's a philosophical duel. On one side, you've got the first owl with its holy yes, this idea that humanity is a bridge to something greater, the music of striving. And on the other side, the second owl, representing the great refusal, the idea that we're basically just tired, a finished product, and the only real truth is the silence of the void, the potential of blood versus the certainty of dross. Pretty stark, right? All right, the clockwork shadow. So how does the Infernal Council respond to this threat? This is where it gets really interesting. They don't just send an army. No, their plan is way more subtle, way more insidious. They decide to build a mirror. Mephistopheles, who is kind of the jester of the abyss, comes up with this chillingly brilliant plan. He basically says, hey, a bird that loves the sun, that just makes it an easier target for a hawk. So instead of just destroying the bird of hope, they're going to build it. A companion, a dark twin, forged in the very fires of their own philosophy, the great refusal. And look how they do it. They gather up the same stuff, discarded brass shavings, but they mix it with soot from the pit. They're not making another songbird. No way. They're creating what the text calls an inverted observer, a clockwork owl of judgment, a giant metallic beast with obsidian eyes and feathers made of sharpened lead. Chilling. So here's the master plan, right? The owl's mission isn't brute force destruction. It's psychological warfare. Its job is to test humanity. Satan's orders are clear. When they talk about striving, show them the rot in their motives. When they claim a holy yes, remind them of that secret no they're all hiding. It's designed to expose the exhaustion that's lurking just beneath the surface of all our virtues. Okay, so the owl is let loose on the world. This section is called Parables of Sin, and you're about to see why. Its weapons aren't what you'd expect. It uses words, perfectly timed, soul-crushing truths. And it doesn't take long for the owl to find its first target. It spots this young guy, full of ambition, loudly boasting about his quest for the peak, his self-overcoming. He's the poster child for the very striving this owl was built to tear down. So the owl just drops this question on him, this chilling little parable. It basically says, are you climbing to reach the stars, or just to look down on your neighbors? It reframes his whole noble quest as petty envy. It's a simple question, but it's absolutely devastating. Why climb the mountain only to prove the mountain is higher than you? Oof. And it works. The owl's logic is flawless and cruel. That bright, burning ambition in the young man's heart, it just fizzles out. It becomes what the story calls a whimper of shame. And just like that, the long tiredness from the abyss has claimed its first victim on Earth. But the owl isn't just picking on the young and hopeful. Up next, the Faustian seekers. We see it go after the big guns, people who are actively trying to embrace the darkness, who think they're ready to make a deal with the devil. So you have these three characters, a priest of the void, a general of dust, and a merchant of ash. And when they see this dark mechanical owl, they aren't scared. They're inspired. They think, this is it. This is our sign. They see it as the dawn of their hour of longing, the moment they can finally trade their souls for ultimate power. But the owl is just not impressed. It hits them with another cold, logical parable. It basically tells them, Your grand ambition, your hour of longing, you're just a thirsty camel, and the only water around is the salt water of the abyss. It says they don't actually want power, they just want an excuse to collapse. And poof, just like that, their fire is out. They have this horrible realization that their grand, tragic damnation isn't some heroic act of rebellion at all. It's just another symptom of that same old exhaustion. It's all just a predictable, calculated part of Hell's plan. So where does all this lead? Well, it leads us here, to the final refusal. This is the ultimate conclusion of the owl's mission, and we see it through a character called the Soothsayer. So, picture this. The Soothsayer is in a lonely forest, and he confronts himself, or, well, his Nietzschean shadow. It's this golden, fiery ghost of the Übermensch, the overman that he once chased after. It's the personification of all the striving he's now left behind. The shadow tries to tempt him, come on, climb the peaks again, embrace the holy yes. But the Soothsayer is just done. He calmly tells it, you are the great lie that kept me from sleep. He's achieved the great refusal. He says he's found a new kind of peace in just accepting that the top of the mountain and the bottom of the pit, they're really not that different. And this gives us a new term, the direct opposite of Nietzsche's idea. Not self-overcoming, but self-undergoing. It's the act of just sinking into the dirt, trading that constant frantic fever of becoming something more for the final quiet peace of just being finished. So in this worldview, the only way to win is to stop playing the game altogether. The Soothsayer finds his healing, his peace, not by conquering the mountain, but by completely letting go. He calls it the happiness of the grave. And as he accepts this, his golden, striving shadow just vanishes into ash. And that's where the fable leaves us, with this really chilling question about ourselves. Is all our striving, our ambition, a real bridge to a higher self? Or is it all just a fancy dress, a costume we put on to hide the fact that, deep down, we're just tired? Something to think about for sure.